Welcome to Laguna Podcast, an attempt at illustrating the lives and stories from the Texas outdoors. Today I sit down with a man who is a true all-around outdoorsman and a fellow Texas trout on the fly fanatic. This is my conversation with Tom Dorrell. So whenever we speak into these, you just kind of want to speak like two to four finger widths away from the microphone. So you can pull it to yourself and to where it's like comfortable. Yeah.
Right about there.
Cool. Right. With that being said, I mean, we're just going to hop into it. The one thing I always like to say before I start is if for some reason you say something that you wish you didn't or anything of the sort, just tell me. I'll go back and post and I'll remove it. You know, like give away a spot, give away a name, who knows what, whatever. Yeah. But I mean, if you're ready to go, I'm ready to rock.
I'm ready, man.
Cool. All right. So, after a good bit of planning, you and I finally got here to do this today. I'm with Mr. Tom Dorrell, and just to get it rocking and rolling, because we clearly already had like half an hour of discussions when I got here.
This should have been on here probably. Right. Yeah.
Well, just to get us started, run me through your first memory in the outdoors.
Okay.
And just kind of how you became you as an angler, as an outdoorsman. Obviously in tandem, we'll go off tangents and stuff like that.
Sure. Well, I mean, our family was always in the outdoors. So believe it or not, I mean, when my mom and dad used to go crappie fishing when I was a baby, and I'd be in the bottom of the John boat, like on Lake Livingston and Sam Rayburn. They were East Texas rednecks, and so, I mean, I don't really remember that, but I know about it from pictures and stuff. And then as I got older, 3, 4, 5 years old, fishing stock tanks, bait fishing like everybody else, and then as I got a little older, probably like maybe 8, 9 years old, then I got introduced into, lure fishing. And I even have this terrible memory of using my dad's bamboo fly rod to catch panfish and rolling it up in the, 1972 or 3 Blazer or whatever it was in the back window and snapping it in half and getting a butt whooping for it and not really understanding why it was such a big deal at the time.
It's just a piece of wood.
Yeah, I get it now.
I tell my own
that
ass.
rod was worth, but yeah. And then, from that, chasing bass, and, my Uncle Reed he was an old guy that used to drive around in a, old Ford single cab truck, no power steering. And he had a couple of 100 acres up in Huntsville with a bunch of bass lakes on it. Mm-hmm. And he used to have a little like 5-foot, rod with a Ambassador 5000 on it, one of those red ones, one of the original, open face reels. And that was when I first actually, believe it or not, started learning about lunar cycles and stuff. Cause he'd come get me and he'd be like, hey, the moon was, straight up last night at, 1 o'clock. We're going to go down here to this stock tank. We're going to throw H&H spinner baits, for these things. And I mean, we caught some big, some fairly big bass. I mean, 5-6 pounders, Yeah. So that was kind of like the first, memories that I had of fishing. And then of course we were a big hunting family too. So that was a whole nother, wing of that.
You mentioned like two moments, right? Where you found out about artificial fishing, and then kind of when you and your uncle like took your fishing a little bit more seriously. Mm-hmm. Was there a specific person who introduced you to lure fishing, or was that also your uncle?
It was my Uncle Reed, really.
Wow.
I mean,
okay.
I had an Uncle Steve too that was big into it, as my mom's brother, and he was into it as well. And I mean, I was all in, Bassmaster magazine.
Oh, so you were already straight Ivy.
I was eating it up. Yeah, okay. I was eating it up, and the fly fishing thing I did. But it wasn't serious. My dad really wasn't a fly fisherman, even though he had that rod and whatever. And so, I was probably hardcore into the lure fishing deal, my whole teenage years and stuff. And then as I got a little bit older, then I started getting more into fly fishing as well.
In your teen years, were you already fishing independently? And the reason I ask is every now and then I'll hear a story of how someone goes out fishing by themselves or catches one fish by themselves.
This episode is made possible by our friends over at Gordy & Sons Outfitters, located in Houston, Texas, and employing a team of experienced outdoorsmen specializing in fly fishing, hunting, and wing shooting. Gordy & Sons is sure to prepare you for success in the outdoors. Next time you find yourself preparing for a weekend getaway or a bucket list trip, be sure to give them a visit at www.gordyandsons.com.
And it's almost like a rite of passage in like their fishing community where they're kind of starting to be seen as more of like, yeah, he's an angler. It's not like he's a +1 fisherman. Did you have a moment like that?
I'm not sure if I had a specific moment. I mean, everybody that knew me knew I was a good fisherman even when I was a teenager, you know. But we used to run up and down the Trinity River when I was 13, 14 years old at night running trot lines, way up the river. I mean, things that, kids with helicopter moms now don't get to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there was no adult on there. It was just a couple of 13-year-old kids,
That's awesome. I mean, that's so sick. And then, so the fly fishing, you said you took it more seriously after your teenage years when you were like in your early to mid 20s. Was there a specific reason as to why you did it? Like, did you watch a river runs through it? Like, what I'm saying is like, what was the main reason for you to say, okay, I've had my fun with artificial. This is something that's calling, a little bit more to me.
Well, river runs through it came way later.
No, I know. It was a bad
I'm an
joke.
old
It's
dog,
okay. It's a bad joke.
I'm going to turn 60 here in a couple of weeks. So we were doing it before a river runs through it ever was even dreamed of, But, when I really got into the fly fishing part, was when I was finishing college and starting med school in Galveston. I was saltwater fishing a lot when I was in Galveston there, and especially the saltwater fly fishing thing started in my early 20s. And I had a roommate of mine, Steve Brown, and I were fishing, Galveston, both throwing artificials. My buddy Steve Elliott and Dave Paget, all those guys are friends of mine, and they were, we all used to fish hardcore. Dave Kennedy, guys that you probably don't know but are pretty good fishermen. And at any rate, and then Steve and I were fishing down in South Padre, and that was where I told you Steve hooked me up with Chuck. Okay. And Chuck Skates is who really got me going on the saltwater fly fishing. Man,
time frame. Just curious when you started fishing in the Lower Laguna.
Yeah, it was late 80s.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
describe what that was like your first time out there.
Man, it was so cool. By the time I was fishing with Chuck, he was running a shallow sport, I think. He might have had a Texas skiff maybe the first time or two I fished with him. And then, we'd go down and spend the night at the Duncan house. My dad, Steve Brown's dad, and myself. And we'd go out fishing with him. And then I fished with Chuck on my own quite a bit after that as well. But I mean, man, the fishing was incredible. I mean, it was just crazy good. I mean, there were schools of redfish, trout, everything mixed together. I mean, if you didn't hit the big red in the head in the center, then you were going to get a, 20-inch trout or bigger was going to grab it on the way out, Yeah. And that doesn't even count all the, skipjacks and whatever that are, that are in there. But there was nothing like it, especially throwing topwaters early in the morning, in big trout.
Yeah.
And they were retarded.
they act the same way now, but just differently.
They're much smarter nowadays than they used to be.
One of the questions I forgot to ask was, did you have anyone in the fly fishing world that you kind of like look towards as like someone to like, not look up to, but I know that I've heard like guys like Wade Duncan, Tom Kilgore talk about the stuff coming out of Florida being like their only real source of any fly fishing news material because it was such a foreign concept in Texas.
That's 100% true.
Yeah.
I mean, other than Chuck, nobody else was doing it.
Yeah.
And when Brown and I were doing it back in those days, I got all my buddies into fly fishing, and everybody's excuse, the wind's blowing 10 miles an hour today, I can't fly fish. I mean, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Because really, they just didn't trust it. that it would be good. You had to go out and put a beating on them for them to understand that it was going to, be just as good if you knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
And there's advantages, as you well know. If you miss, you just pick it up, put it back where it needs to be. And meanwhile, they're reeling their tail end off to try to get it back so they can get another shot. And there's guys that are so good with a bait caster or a spinning rod that they don't miss very often. Mm-mm. But the reality of it is that if you do miss, you're in a jam.
Yeah. No, I totally.
But
agree.
I would to answer the question, I would tell you that everybody watched Walker's Cave Chronicles.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That was part of it. I got to where I really got into Dahlberg's big fish deal as we got older. Yeah. In fact, I've got a fly over there that Larry tied me before I went down to I think we were in the Rio Negro when we were down in Brazil.
Oh, for Dorrell.
And so, and I actually caught fish with it and didn't lose it, thankfully. And I have it hanging over there along with one that Bud tied for me that he and I fished, and then I didn't lose it either and caught a lot of fish on it. And then Ernie Butler, who I don't know if you know who Ernie is.
Not familiar with that name.
But Ernie Butler is a local guy here in Corpus that built Marker 37 and all the infrastructure over there. He started as selling shrimp under the causeway as a shrimper, and Ernie's just a straight up badass. And anyway, he carved that lure for me from wood off of the National Seashore over there, where the old I forget what it's called, the old settlement that was over there. Right now, it's skipping my mind because I'm getting old, but anyway, and the barbed wire off there and everything. So it's very cool. He used to be a patient of mine years ago, so he's a good dude.
That's so awesome. I wanted to talk a little bit about you fishing with skates, and then I'm curious as to how you ended up getting connected with Bud. So just kind of basically like Lower Laguna Madre stories. What the topic is.
So I think the way that some of that happened is that. And there was an interval here that I probably have to insert in the middle of that, because when I got out of med school, I went to residency in Colorado, and that was in 92. And then I left there in 95 and went to Idaho and was in the Rockies rurally doing, rural medicine and, the old kind of family docs you don't see anymore that do C-sections and all kinds of stuff like that, right? And I bought a drift boat and I floated all the rivers up there, and I had a pack train, chasing elk in the backcountry every September. And, and so I did that for 10 years.
Wow.
And I would come back to fish with my buddies, and I would fly fish and they would throw conventional, And so when I came back down here, it was like 2003. So I left the mountains around 2003. My dad and I had bought just a rat hole over in Port Aransas, and gutted it and tuned it up. My wife called it the trailer house on stilts, And at any rate, and when I did that, I had initially bought a shoal water and had it custom rigged for fly fishing. And did not like it. It was a terrible boat. So I got rid of it. And then I bought one of the, Chuck talked me in. I was still fishing with him. He had moved to Redfish Lodge back then. And then was doing an independent deal around Port A too. And so, in fact, he got Patty, my wife, her first redfish on the fly.
Awesome.
Over there at the Lighthouse Lakes before they got so crowded. And at any rate, and so I bought sight unseen an HPXT, one of the first ones, and had a Bob's low water pickup put on it. And one other guy down in your neck of the woods had also done that. And so that was kind of the skinniest running Poland skiff back in the day. It pulled good.
Quick question. Was that when the hull of the Mavericks were introducing leaking? Like where there was like that whole issue where they had to do the recall? I know Bill Hagan mentioned it in like 01, 03-ish.
I did not have it in mind, but sorry about that. That's my Catahoula. Coda, chill. At any rate, so, sorry about that. Blood tracking dogs are bad news, man. But anyway, so I didn't have any trouble with it with mine. But, you know, it would overheat if you ran 300 yards and 4 inches of water, even though.
If you're enjoying this episode or any others and want to support the project, I would highly encourage you to check out my new book, Laguna. 288 pages with over 300 images and illustrations, containing excerpts by Eric Glass, Chuck Nizer, Tim O'Brien, Bill Gamble, Ben Paschal, Ryan Sparrow, Michaela Elliott, Rick Hartman, Jaco Lucas, John Pilmer, Corey Bauman, Brian Robinson, and myself. Available at select stores, or you can order it directly at buylagunabook.myshopify.com.
But it pulled great. And so I ran that for a while, and Clark over at Coastal Marine helped me rig that out. He sold out several years back, but at any rate, and so I ran that, and then one day I saw a curlew go by from the boat ramp, and I'm getting to the answer to your,
I know you. I can see where you're going.
And at any rate, I saw that curlew, and I mean, it was like watching a supermodel go by, and I was like, "Damn, look at that boat!"
Yeah, like,
I was
you're
like,
jealous,
"That thing
but
is
you're
pretty."
also
I mean,
like, I
got
get
no
it.
sides. It looks really skinny, and so I figured out I might have even stopped and talked to the guy, and it was one of the first ones that it was down here, and so I ended up talking to Chuck Nizer.
Oh, okay.
And because Chuck was running one, and he had one of the first one of those, and I think Scott and them were way up there too.
Yeah, Scott right after.
And at any rate, and so I went and fished with Chuck just to see how the boat was and talked to him, and he's a riot. And then I called Scott and I said, "Hey, I want to come down and fish with you. I really am interested. This is what I'm doing, and I'm not real happy completely with that boat." And it was wet. That HPXT was wet. And so I went down there and I talked to Tim before I did. And we kind of discussed. Tim's super nice guy, him and Leslie, love them both. But at any rate, so I went down and fished with Scott and met him. Scott and I had a good day on the water. And, Scott's got balls when it comes to running a shallow water skiff.
Really?
I mean, he did back then. And the stilt made it even worse, But at any rate, so we fished, and I called Tim, and I bought one on the way home, And this is back when Tim was in the old. He wasn't even in his new place. It was
I never knew about the old one.
Yeah, this is like 03.
Okay.
And so anyway, and through Tim and Scott. And another friend of mine, Perry DeTore, that I fished with quite a bit. In fact, actually, Perry ended up with my HPXT, and I think he's still got it to this day.
It's a pretty badass boat.
Yeah,
man.
they're good boats. I know Eric ran one for years.
Yeah, I had one up until like 3 years ago.
Yeah. And especially for the money back then, they weren't. I mean, I think I paid $25,000 for mine. Of course, I didn't pay much more than that for the curlew the first time around.
Yeah.
And now they're crazy expensive. But anyway, and then so all of that went on, and I fished with Scott several more times, and then ran that curlew for 10 years. And during the middle of that, Bud and I got hooked up together, and we went down
at a fishing show.
No, it was through Tim. And,
just like, hey, this guy, you need to talk to this guy.
Yeah, he goes, yeah. And so I called Bud one day, and I said, "Hey, I'd love to come down and go fishing with you." And he goes, "Well, I ain't really a guide." He goes, "But he goes, I'll take you and your and I want to take Patty too." And so we went down there and went fishing. And I don't know if it was the first time we got together with him and fished. But, and I hadn't been down to South Padre fishing except for with Scott since med school, because I'd fished with Chuck down there quite a bit. And then when he left and I went to the mountains, that was the end of that, And then I went down there and started fishing again when I did the curlew and fishing with Scott, who was, great guy. And then Bud and I really hit it off when we went down there, and he loved Patty. And at any rate, if it wasn't the first it was the first 2 or 3 trips. That's when, he put Patty and I out on a spoil island down there throwing, VIP poppers I'd tied. And Patty caught the world record trout on the fly down there, And I want to say, it's sitting in my tack room back there. I think it was 7.6 or 7.8. It was 28 inches long.
What tippet?
16.
Wow, man, that's an awesome fish.
And I think Scott's previous wife, Kathy, had the current record at 4 something. And I didn't even know any of this. I wasn't a record chaser.
Oh, okay.
But Bud knew.
Yeah, but Bud was very.
And the crazy thing is that my wife is the most soft-hearted person in the world. And getting her to kill a fish is really hard to do, or anything else for that matter. She'll shoot pigs with her bow, but that's it.
Heard.
And at any rate, I tried to let that fish go for 25 minutes, and I could not get it to stay alive. And I think she was spawned out because Patty landed her in like less than 5 minutes. I mean, it was quick, fairly quick.
Yeah.
And she was just, blind casting poppers over the drop off on one of the spoil islands over there. And anyway, I hauled it back to the boat and I said, well, Bud, I guess we're going to have to eat this one. And he's like, who caught that? And I'm like, Patty caught it. And he goes, hold it up. And I said, yeah, it's pretty good fish and 28 inches long. And he goes, that's the woman's new world record. And I'm like, really? Are you kidding me? And he goes, no. He goes, I'm going to cut the end of that fly line off. We're about to go weigh that fish on the bank and I'm going to send it in. And I promise you, I've got a bunch of world records. And this is the next one, And so anyway, so we did. And that's exactly the way it went down, Wow. And my wife, she's such a snot. She's like, well, I didn't sight cast to it. And I didn't do this. And I didn't do that. And I give her a lot of crap about it, But she won't even hardly, she just like minimizes the whole thing, and I got to ride her coattails, So anyway, it was a good story though. And we continued to, stay close with Bud and fish with him for quite a few years. And then, life happens,
Yeah,
so,
no, totally get that.
Anyway, but,
well, I'm curious to know if you have any stories like that, like kind of in-depth stories with days of like you and skates out there. Cause that was like kind of perfect. Like I love hearing stuff like that. Cause to me, those are the little stories that, kind of on the back of your mind when you're driving out in the day, you're like, fuck, like, is today going to be one of those days?
One of the things that I learned from probably the thing that I remember most about, Chuck taught me a lot of stuff when I was young. And I was still fishing with him even after he had cancer and had all that other, BS from, and of course he smoked cigarettes like a chimney, which, created some of those problems. But at any rate, he used to get out and hold or push the boat instead of poling it many times, especially at daylight. He liked to get up there right as the sun was coming up and look into the sun so that you can see the sparkle of the water coming off those redfish tails early. And I don't know if anybody ever, and you might have learned it on your own, may know about it already, but that was something that I learned from Chuck that nobody else has ever mentioned to me.
Interesting.
And especially if you'll, it doesn't happen as good if the wind's ripping already, but if it's, 5-10 miles or less, I do it to this day and have been doing it for, I don't know how many years. So I'll pole into the sun in the morning, in the beginning, like for the first 30 minutes or whatever, and I feel like I can see more fish doing that than the other way around.
Yeah. I've always thought it was more of like a heavy contrast thing. 'Cause typically when you look into the sun, everything, the highlights blow up. So everything reflects. And so just the tiniest little motion it always registers as darker, more shadow. And you're like, I can
absolutely.
See it.
And he's the one that taught me that,
Really?
I didn't learn it on my own. He was educating me about it. And, we didn't catch any great big fish with Chuck, but we caught a fair amount of fish. And I was early in my fly fishing life at that point in time. So I was soaking it all up from all these guys, I learned something from everybody that I have fished with over the years, and that's just because there's a lot of good guys out there, man.
Yeah. I've also one of the coolest things about, this project is you realize how much people get to experience out there and how your experience is one of millions. So it's like being able to talk to different people, you get to hear about different stories that happened in similar spots or same spots. And you're like, I would have never guessed that those fish are there, or that they act like this, or that they eat this. And it just kind of like starts to really paint a picture of what Texas fishing can be.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the coolest things about, again, almost like being able to soak information up like a sponge. I think forgot who told me that, like as the answer to the last question, but it was one of those things that I think resonates very strongly with a lot of people. And well, unfortunately, I think that with like the way that today goes, a lot of people have a really big ego. So like they look around and they're like, I don't need to learn shit from you. And it's like, nobody said you had to, but if it helps.
Yeah, I hear you. You know, I learned that in medicine a long time ago. The guys with the biggest egos are the most condescending. They're covering up their stupidity, man. I mean, that's typically human nature, I think. The guys that are humble and modest, and I mean, Eric Glass is a perfect example of this. Eric is the GOAT as far as I'm concerned on the Texas coast. I'm going to say that and step out there on a limb and say that goes for everybody.
I can think of quite a few people
Eric
who agree with you.
will not admit to it. I mean, he's kind of like Steve Huffax, over in Florida, I mean, and, I think, the cockier you are, probably maybe that's not a good thing.
Yeah,
So.
I don't disagree. You mentioned a little bit about med school. We talked about lessons that you've learned with different guides. Did you ever have like a professor or a mentor in the med school field that also kind of taught you important lessons, stuff that you kind of bring into your everyday life, not just fishing as well?
Not everyday life stuff. I mean, medicine, how to, dealing with patients and that same thing we just talked about is part of that. The only thing that affected my fishing was a guy that I cannot remember Kelly's last name to save my life. He was my chief resident my fourth year when I was OB-GYN. When I in an OB-GYN rotation, when I was in med school, and Brown and I used to, skip that rotation and go fishing all the time. And he was a badass fisherman, and he would let us, because actually I wasn't planning on doing OB, even though I ended up doing it after I left. But I mean, and Kelly ended up going over to, he's a gynecologist over out of Sabine, and he's a badass lure fisherman. And I cannot, if I told you his last name, and I don't, like I said, I'm getting old. I can't remember. I got CRS really bad. But at any rate, he was a guy that let us.
Yeah, I get it.
Budget, you know what I mean? So that was good.
So from those days in the lower Laguna, we can continue your progression as an angler.
Yeah. So, learning all that I did from those guys down there. I mean, I fished the kids down there. I got two boys, Clint, who's 28, and he works for McKinsey Consulting right now. He just got out of Rice. He did real well getting through there. And at any rate, and then Cooper, my youngest, who's 22, and he's building homes for Pulte right now. Wow. And he just got out of A&M not too long ago. And at any rate, and so I had those guys with me, fishing them from the time they were little. I mean, wow. They're real outdoors. So we were an outdoors family, and my wife fly fishes. Clint started throwing a bait caster when he was like 4 years old, if you can believe that. And then he started fly fishing when he was like 8. And Cooper was even, I mean, Clint probably, they both, as far as outdoors, both bow hunters, started shooting deer when they were 4.5. Started killing deer with a bow when they're like 8, I mean, just, and fly fishing the whole time. And I was way harder on Clint because I was so intense about that stuff when I was younger. You know what I mean? I wasn't as easy going as I am now. Dude, I was a hard charger back in the day. And Clint grew up during that. And then I learned a little bit from parenting him, and relaxed a little bit with Cooper and let him take his own time getting there. And I mean, and they're both great fishermen, great hunters. And so we spent all our time doing that. I mean, my wife will tell you she's only been on like one non-fishing hunting vacation in her whole life. And we've been married 31 years. All the wives are going, what an asshole.
I don't hear her complaining.
So anyway, I mean, we went on not to, go off the rails here, but I mean, we went on a, family vacation to Spain last year, hunting ibex with a bow, and Patty went, and Clint's got a great fiance, and she killed an ibex with her compound.
Wow.
And she's only been bow hunting about 5-6 years. And Clint and I got ours, and Cooper didn't get one, even though he almost killed the biggest one ever been killed. But he just that close.
Yeah.
But anyway, so back to what we were talking about. Outdoor family. We spent all our life doing that. So when I wasn't working, which was a lot, we'd go down to South Padre, and then I moved us out of the trailer house on stilts. I pulled Patty out of her really nice house up in Idaho on 108 acres next to the National Forest. And after I finished, a month of hunting elk with a bow up there, then I had already moved her and Clint down into the trailer house with stilts, which she wasn't happy about. And then I came down and then started working down here, and then, did some different things professionally, working the ERs at Shoreline and South. And then I built my own gig over on the island, and actually had a boat dock on my ER on the island.
No shit.
Because I worked for 10 months, 7 days a week. And we're talking 12 hours a day, Monday through Saturday. And then I worked like 12 to 6 on Sunday. So instead of going to church like I should have been doing on Sunday morning, me and Clint were going fishing. I get my 3 or 4 hours of fishing Sunday morning, and then I'd park the boat at the ER.
Fix.
Yeah, exactly. And so anyway, and then I learned all, I'd already knew Port A fairly well because of having the fishing house there. And then it's funny, we got to Port A because Patty and I had a trip to Christmas Island. I was traveling a lot, fishing back when I was in Idaho, trying to get my saltwater fix.
Understood.
And at any rate, and the refueling station went down in Christmas Island and canceled our trip. And man, when you're doing OB out in the sticks and, all this stuff in a smaller hospital, you can't get those 2 weeks rearranged. So getting 2 weeks off was a bitch to start with.
Yeah.
And so I rented a house in Port A and borrowed my buddy Steve Elliott's boat and rented a house for 2 weeks. And we had so much fun, doing it and fishing here with having everybody down. I decided to hell with it. I'm going to quit travel fishing, and I'm going to, that's when Dad and I bought the, rat hole and gutted it and, and I actually made like 30,000 on that thing when I sold it. I mean, it was crazy. My wife doesn't get it, but it was cool. So we sold that and then bought a house over in North Padre on the water, and stayed there for several years, and then moved to the Bluff, and we stayed there the rest of the time the kids were growing up. And so I was fishing all of that country from Port A and the stuff that I fish and guide in now, along with going down to South Padre, and even when we weren't fishing with Bud or Scott, we were doing our own thing, and I learned all that area down there pretty well. I mean, it's rare. It's rare that I can't come down to your country and catch fish. And then my buddy Steve Elliott had a house on the Intercoastal in Port O'Connor, and so I fished that a lot also. I don't know it as well as the other two, but I know it pretty well.
Yeah.
And so we just, for, I don't know, I started guiding 6-7 years ago, but I've been fly fishing that country steadily since 2003.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a little bit as a guided fisherman even prior to that, know. But so that's sort of the story of, fishing all that stuff down there.
Yeah, absolutely. Now what I'm wondering is what spurred you to say, okay, I'm going to start guiding? Because like someone listening to this, it would be like, well, you worked OBGYN, you worked in the ER, you worked a lot of high paying jobs. So why do you want to be the guy on the back?
Man, well, I'm always the guy on the back when I had my family. You know what I mean? It's rare. I mean, in fact, your fishing skills will go down the toilet a little bit, where you need a tune-up, you know. I mean, they never leave, but, you can do some stupid things every now and then if you're not on the front all the time.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I just enjoyed it, you know. I get as much of a kick out of guiding as I do being on the front of the boat. Yeah. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, I really do. I enjoy putting people in position to make their day, you know. Now, I mean, do you have a lot of guys that come down and book trips and they are not prepared to execute on, and it's getting worse because the fish are so much more difficult to catch. I mean, used to be you could just throw it anywhere near them at 30 feet and they'd turn around and eat it.
They'd go 6 feet out of their way at 60 feet, you know.
Yeah,
it was
those days are gone.
Yeah.
But if you can get a guy that can cast 50 feet and he's decent on accuracy, you're usually going to have a decent day most of the time. And you know, I fished you know how it is. I mean, dads fish their kids. I still, you know, when nobody will go with me, my wife is like my fallback, and she's like, I guess I'll go. You know, I'll do it just to pity you, you know, or whatever, so I can push her around. And she'll push me every now and then, actually. But now that my kids are grown and good, and we don't see each other that much anymore, I mean, Cooper has, you know, guided a little bit himself, you know.
Awesome.
And anyway, they're very fishy, both of them. I mean, crazy fishy. And so they're really good with the pole and all that. But I decided to start guiding because I was most of the time catching fish anytime I wanted to go. And I was, you know, and my kids had left. I didn't have them to fish anymore. You know, I'm old. They left the house a long time ago, and my wife doesn't always want to go. And I mean, I've got some buddies that fly fish, but they're not as many of them as there are, you know, lure chunkers.
Yeah.
I mean, I even take Rousey every now and then. About once a year, I'll take Rousey, and Rousey can get it done, believe it or not.
After I did the podcast with Rousey, I was like, dude, I want to have you on the bow of my boat, man. Like,
and the difference is Dave's not a great fly caster, but he knows how to feed fish.
That's exactly what.
And that is all that is required.
Exactly what
and
he
Dave's
said.
got great eyes, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, he's got, you know, and again, and I've learned a lot from Dave over the years. He and I have been friends since I got down here in 2003. I was his doctor for a long time. And anyway, we give each other a rash of shit. We bird hunted together. He used to come out to the ranch with me. And anyway, he's a character. So
yeah, hell yeah. So we just went over also that you were a world angler for a while. I'm curious if you can give me a list of some of the places, notable places that you've been, or, you know, interesting places that you've been.
Man, I've been to Mexico. I've been to Belize. I didn't get to go to Christmas Island. I've been to Costa Rica. I've been to Brazil. I've never done the Alaska thing, even though I wanted to. But man, it is almost cost prohibitive, and I really would want to take my kids. And man, talk about some cheese. And I'm a little bit of a tight ass when it comes to that kind of stuff. And then I started fishing Florida. It's kind of funny. My kids, when they're 12 years old, I took both of them on a father and son trip. And Clint wanted to go spot and stalk bear hunting on Prince of Wales Island with a longbow for black bears when he was 12.
Wow.
And so we went and did a DIY trip, and it was a little bit of a hassle because, you know, the Clintons had cut out the logging industry on POW, and that really killed the bear hunting over there. And then the amount of houses that were being built on the shoreline made it to where you couldn't really hunt them like I had done in Vancouver Island.
Like
before.
off the boat, right?
Yeah, off the boat where you know, hunting tidal flats and that kind of stuff. And so we didn't have a great trip. One of the guys in our party got a shot at a bear with a rifle. And then Cooper, when he came for his 12-year-old trip, we were supposed to go to Venice and go offshore fly fishing. And I forget what Mike's last name is, but he ran one of the big boats down there, real nice guy. He called me the morning we're supposed to leave. And he's like, Tom, he's like, 6 foot seas the next 3 days. He goes, and I'm pretty sure you don't want to go red fishing, right? And I'm like, no, not really. Because it was like, I want to say it was August. You know, that's when Cooper's birthday is. And at any rate, so we agreed to cancel the trip. And he refunded my deal back. And at any rate, so I'm hustling, trying to figure out what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So I had been down with Perry DeTore and fished with, Kevin Mihailoff. down in the Glades. And Perry and I had a good trip with him. So I tried to get a hold of Kevin. Kevin wasn't even there because it's August and it's low season for those guys, right? And so they don't even fish a lot of times in August because the Everglades is hot and, whatever. And so at any rate, he gave me Jeff Legutke's name. And then I also looked up Andy Reid, and I called Andy, and Andy was coming back to Naples from the Panhandle or somewhere he'd been fishing, or maybe it was on the Pacific side. I'm not the Pacific, the East Coast side. I can't remember, but anyway, he was coming back, and I told him what I said. Look, I said I got a 12-year-old that's about to be destroyed, and I was like, Dad's trying to pull a rabbit out of his hat to try to make this work out, right? And so Andy's like, I'll do that. And so I called Jeff, and Jeff goes, we can fish in Naples. And he goes, I don't normally fish on the weekends. He goes, but I'll make an exception for this. And he goes, I can only fish you Saturday, I think he said. Or I can't remember. One of them was Friday. No, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I think. So it was a 3-day gig. And then he got a hold of Bill Faulkner for me, who was a friend of his. And believe it or not, I got 3 days with 3 different guides set up and bought plane tickets. And Cooper walked downstairs about 8:30 in the morning, and I told him what had happened, and he almost started getting a tear in his eye. And I'm like, Dad's hustling, man. And I got it put together, made us stay at the golf resort in Naples, booked all those trips, and by 4 o'clock, we were on the plane. I mean, it was insane that I was able to logistically put that together, man. I mean, I was really hustling. And so that got me going to Florida.
Okay.
And Jeff and I hit it off like gangbusters, and we're still friends to this day.
Awesome.
He's a great guy, and he taught me a ton about tarpon and snook fishing, and made me a better fly fisherman in general. Andy, we had a good time with Andy. I caught my first triple tail sight casted on the fly in like 2 foot of water with him. And then Cooper caught a bunch of snook with him, and we caught a bunch of fish in general with him. And then Bill, we had a really slow day out of Goodland. I don't think Cooper was not a great fly fisherman at the time. You know, he's 12.
Yeah.
I mean, he was decent, but not good.
Yeah.
And anyway, and I don't think Bill had a lot of faith in him. But I think Bill gave him a spinning rod. He caught a few fish on spinning rod. I don't think Cooper caught any on the fly with him. And then right at the end of the day, Bill's like, you know what? Let's bump outside. Just make sure there's no tarpon coming down the beach right here. And it turned out Jeff had told him about this spot because I told Jeff about it. Jeff's like, I told him about this spot. He didn't even know about it till I told him. Anyway, it was kind of funny, you know. But we went out on the beach and stake up for just a minute. And I'll be damned, here comes one lone tarpon coming down. And because Bill said, he goes, you're a good enough caster. He goes, I just need to get you in front of a fish and we'll be good. So anyway, I make a cast, long one, like 80 foot, probably 5 feet too long. Fish is moving faster than I thought. I'm stripping like a big dog to get it in front of him. Yeah, stripping. And right when he's about to, it comes right about over his eyes like that, but faster than it should have been. And it was one of those old big purple flies, right?
Oh, okay.
And I stripped it, and he saw it, and the sumbitch did a 180. Have you ever seen a tarpon do a 180?
Yes, like a couple weeks ago.
This is a fairly big fish, like 60, 80 pounder, right? And I'm back here like this because of stripping it, and I just snap that rod tip and make that thing jump, and damn, if he didn't pound it and take off to the races.
Wow.
So I end up catching him. And you know, we got pictures of him in the water, and then between that and having a great day with Jeff in Naples and seeing a lot of fish and catching a few, and Jeff got us out on the beach for a short period of time, and the water was too rough, but man, it was magical out there for the 10 minutes we could pole it, and then it was just too rough.
Yeah.
And anyway, and so that started my Florida gig, and honestly, I quit going everywhere else just about.
Really?
Yep. And I've been going to Florida for, I don't know, at least 10 years, I think. I fished with Jeff once or twice a year for like the first half a dozen years. And then he got me, you know, thinking about the Keys. And I went down and Steve Ford and I, who are good friends, he got me hooked up with Brian down there, Brian Helms, and Brian taught me a crap ton about out on the on the ocean, and he pounded me, and I needed it, and at any rate, and it was good, and we caught some tarpon with him. Cooper leadered 100-pounder out on the ocean with him. Brian finally snapped him off. He just couldn't get him. Yeah, he just we leadered him like 4 or 5 times. He was afraid that hammerhead was going to come, and we were already like 3 miles offshore. Fish drunk, and I was like, Cooper. I was like, you got to kick his ass,
Do it or take one for the team,
dude. Yeah. Anyway, and so and then we hooked some good fish down there. I leadered a 145 with him. Patty leadered an 80. And we had, hooked a lot of fish, caught a lot of smaller fish, and anyway, and learned a ton from Brian. And I fished with LeBeatty, and he's a good dude too. We caught a lot of fish with him, and right now I'm fishing with Jace Chamizo down there. In fact, I was down there in September. We had a good trip with Jace, and tarpon fishing was tough at the end of June. When I fished with him this year. The year before, it was great. It was kind of weird. So anyway, so I've had my whole family down there. There's been a couple of times I've booked 2 boats, like when one of the kids is graduating from somewhere or something. So that really upped my game. And my kids too. You go down and fish with the guys in the Keys, even though we got some great Texas fishermen here. Yeah. That fishery is so sensitive.
It's so technical.
It's so technical, man.
I totally agree.
Technical.
Yeah. It's one of those things. So for example, I've referenced this before, like a couple years ago, 2 years ago, my friend Tim O'Brien brought his guide, Paulie Ross, down to...
Tim fishes him like a month.
Yeah. So he brings him down
Paulie's
to La
a badass. He's Jace's... They're buddies.
Dude, yeah, he's that dude. That dude's a badass. And so, Paulie starts talking about, this permit cast, this, that, and the other thing. And when I first listened to it, I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm full of shit and whatever. And then I start listening to what he's saying, and I'm like, wait, I was thinking about trying to figure out a way to cast like that at these big trout. And I'm like, oh shit, these guys are really ahead of the curve when it comes to being fucking technical and knowing when to do what, how to do what. And so then after that, before that, I had spent some time with Raskob in 2019 and then in 2014. And in those 2 times also, it was like, you just sit and try to soak up as much information as you possibly can. It's hard to explain, but it really when the times I have been able to fish over there, it's one of those things where it's like, what can I bring back to Texas? And you can start to see guys who spend a lot of time there, when they bring that mindset back, it's almost refreshing. Cause I spent time with Rick Hartman a lot on the boat also. And the way Rick likes to fish is more nose to the grindstone, enjoy the suck. If you bleed, it's okay, right? So
he's a hard ass.
Yeah. So the best way to explain it is, we just talked about hard mono before I started recording this, but but when I was fishing with Rick, I'd be like, oh, I need to switch flies, whatever. He'd be like, don't tie a damn loop knot on there, just unit, unit knot, whatever. And you're only throwing 12 pounds, so the line's not gonna, affect the way that the fly swims. And at that, when you're throwing straight 12 pound, you can only really get about 9 foot, right? So it was like those little things. And then, again, I was able to spend some time on the boat with Brett Greco, and then obviously Tim O'Brien, and they both kind of told me a little bit about hard mono, and it was like,
that's what they're using for the tarpon tournament.
Yep.
They're using mono, and then they're doing
for the class tippet also. That's what they supply. Yeah.
Right.
But it was one of those things where it's like, man, I need to start opening myself up more to just absorbing that kind of knowledge. And so I spent some time with Hansen Lau last year, and I told him on the podcast, I was like, dude, I think you're probably one of the, if not the greatest or the most well-rounded angler I have yet to meet, fish with, and it was just genuine because it's I saw him, do a bunch of technical stuff with spin rods, then we switched it up, then we did fly, we just did a lot.
It's cool to have that entire skill set. That's the way Jose Wahebi was, he could do anything, and I did a lot of that kind of fishing when I was younger. But I rarely pick up a spinning rod or a bait caster these days. But every now and then Like I have somebody that wants to throw topwaters, and we'll go throw topwaters. And I used to love to do that. I mean, throwing topwaters is a hoot, man, you know. But I agree with you. Having that whole well-rounded skill set, I wish I had as good a skill set in everything else as I feel like have developed fly fishing.
Oh,
you know
absolutely.
What I mean?
So for the casting side of things, like, I know that I got pretty solid at casting, and I think it was, again, after that time I spent with Hansen, it was like, I realized that I had been, this is me personally, but I realized that I had been kind of like abandoning the rest of fishing. In at least if like, for example, if I was a student, I only studied fly fishing when it came to fishing. And it was like, I mean, I get it, but at the same time, it's also like, that is just a medium of catching fish. And if I really want to be good and feel like I'm proud of what I can do, like I need to, venture out into that stuff. So I started getting a little bit more into the spin stuff. And funny enough, I was just in Mexico fishing for like striped marlin and
we got to
stuff
talk
like
about that on or off at some point.
Definitely. But honestly, it'd be better if we talked about it off.
Done.
Anyways, so like, I'm fishing with like another person on the boat, and like she's not a great caster, and like she's having an issue, she's kind of nervous like how to get the fly out to a marlin, because the way they had the teaser spread were kind of long cast and it was kind of wavy. And I was like, look, dude, like cut the shit. Like you're not like chucking a fly 10 feet overhand is not a fly cast. At that point, just pick the rod up, move it to where the fish is, let the fly go to the fish.
Yeah.
She hooked the first one she saw. And like I was catching shit about it like after that, like in the evening at dinner. And I was like, they were like, it takes away the pristineness or whatever of fly fishing. And I said,
if you're trolling.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, dude, like I get it. Like
there's a lot of sail fishing that is caught just like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I realized that.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where it's like, I realized, or I guess the way to put it is, in the pursuit of trying to be such a good caster, I realized that being a good caster just means it is the most efficient way to get the fly to the fish.
Yeah, it doesn't make you a good fisherman.
Yes. And so
There's
in my
more
head,
to it.
Exactly. So in my head, it's like, well, this is easier than that. It's not going to change the sport of it at all. Like we're already here. We're already like, I don't know if that makes sense.
Man.
I don't know if that makes a ton of sense. And I'm not saying like cut corners, but I am saying like, looking at fly fishing and fly casting as just an avenue to get the fly to the fish is a lot more different than looking at fly casting as a limiting factor as to why you can't catch fish on a fly rod.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I didn't mean to go on such a hard tangent.
No, I agree with you.
So we went over a little bit about Florida. I'm really curious about, we just talked about you taking, I think was the 2 degree when you had the trolling, the other power pole move, and how you spent a whole month down there basically doing it on your own. I'd like to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, you mean when I was in Florida?
Yes.
Yeah, so let's see. So when I was fishing with Brian, this is back before COVID, Brian was talking to me about, man, they're stopping development down here. House prices are going to skyrocket. Of course, in COVID, they went absolutely ape shit. But so I sold my house up here, and I was thinking about here in Corpus, and we were living at the ranch, and I was just thinking that, man, maybe he's right. Maybe I'll take that money and try to see if I can move it into something at the Keys, because I eat up with tarpon fishing and whatever.
I mean,
right?
if you have the opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to be here every day so I could learn more about the fishery, And at any rate, so we studied that, and I decided to rent a house in Sugarloaf for like a month, and we took my 2 degree. And Ford knew I was wanting a 12 degree 21. And so he let me take his, which was a huge deal because I took it for a month. And at any rate, but it did sell me on one. And that's why there was one sitting on the garage. So it worked, but he paid for it.
Yes.
And Elaine was not happy about it.
What the hell happened to my lower unit?
Yeah. And at any rate, and so So we went down there and stayed in Sugarloaf, and Cooper and I drove all night long, straight through, hauling both boats, and we stayed there for a month. We fished with Nick for 5 days, scattered out during that, and at any rate, man, it was the best vacation of my life. I ain't gonna lie to you. Wow. We went to the Marquesas twice on the 21. And believe it or not, I had initially, Patty opted out because we didn't know if I could pole 5 people in the 21 in the ocean current, even though the girls are, they're girls with good figures. They're not heavy and big or whatever. They're, lightweight. And Clinton Cooper and I, all of us are in that, 180, 185 range, So not a ton of weight, but we realized the first run over to the Marquesas, it was no problem. And so then we got a lot of shots at tarpon. I think we caught 1. And then the second time we went, I had all 5 of them over there, and Cooper and Clint and I are taking turns poling. And the bad thing about it is the second day I had, when Patty and Cooper were out with Nick fishing, I took the 21 and dumped it and ran over in all that back country to the, right at the north of Contents and all that country that nobody even talks about. And I just wanted to go explore it. And I don't think I even saw fish all day, but the most beautiful country you ever saw. Somehow when I was pushing that 21 off, I must have done something to my back, because the next morning when I went fishing with Cooper and we were tarpon fishing with Nick, man, I went to get up on the casting platform to go second after Cooper had hooked a fish. And, buddy, I could barely step up on the casting platform.
Really?
And within 2 days, I had 75% weakness in my right quad. And so I had a disc fragment pop off. I didn't even have back pain. It was the craziest thing. And so anyway, I medicated myself with a bunch of steroids and tequila and whatever. and I just stayed.
It's a nice attitude.
I stayed the whole month, and I was having to pull myself up the stairs. I'm still pulling the 21 and the 2 degree with it, fell down a few times, but I mean, I was good. But we persevered and fished through all that. Fished the 2 degree was really good in the backcountry. It was not a great oceanside boat with that tunnel on it. If it was calm, you could fish it, but if it started getting rowdy on the Atlantic, the 2 degree, you had to duck back into the backcountry, but it did great down there. And when Patty and I had it down there, when I quit my job I was telling you about, we fished for a week down there, and Brian was like, as long as you stay off my, ocean fish, you're fine. Just go to the backcountry. And that's what we did. I mean, I didn't even see Brian the whole time I was down there for a week. And same thing when we were fishing with Nick. I mean, I stayed away from him and all his stuff. I would never do anything like that. That would be like me having somebody come down and me guide fish them, and then the next morning they're right there. Like, I mean, that's just being an asshole, you know? Yeah. And I mean, I'm not like that. So I'd rather learn it on my own anyway and find my own fish and do my own thing, which is what we did the whole time we were down there. Now the 12 degree boat down there is phenomenal everywhere. I mean, it is just, and you can see why the guys run an 18-12
over the 21 or over the 18-2.
I think it's because they all feel like they're working so hard every day poling that they'd rather pole that than the 21. But when things are snotty, I mean, and the 21 pole's great. I mean, honestly, here, like you were asking me about it. I mean, I love using it early season down here when I'm chasing big trout. And, and we'll get into the trout thing here in a little bit.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I can pole that son of a bitch when it's blowing 25. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's just not hard. The one thing I will say about Chittum is that I think they make the quietest, easiest, driest poling skiff on the market right now. I mean, I really believe that. I have 2 of them, and I just bought another one and sold my old one. It's coming in.
Yeah, you're telling me.
I mean, I've got a hole in the garage waiting for it right now. But they're expensive. I had my last one since 18. So what was that? 7 years.
I got mine in 23, March 15th of 2023.
Yeah. They were still in the old shop when, and none of the stuff was going the way it goes now. I mean, they're trying to get into production mode and, eliminate any kind of hiccups and stuff like that. So more power to them. But having said that, those boats are great in the Keys and they're great here.
Yeah. Okay. So let's segue into the trout stuff.
Yeah.
So how do you want to approach this? You tell me.
So I would say the segue is that stuff that I learned from Laguna and Brian and, and even when I fished with Chase is 27, 28 years old down there. And he is so good. He's, Paulie's contemporary, right? Mm-hmm. Those are the two boys that are, beating up the tarpon circuit right now.
That's
they're in their 20s,
awesome.
And Matthew Kern's the one that turned me on to Jace because, Brian, and, no knock against him, but he had a trust fund guy come in and kick me to the curb. So he's I forget. Anyway, he booked a month of days.
The rent-a-friend deal, right?
Yeah,
where you're my friend for a month.
My days were in that month. He's like, see you later, dude. And, anyway, but that's another story. But that technicality and then the days that I spend on the water looking for big trout and also, I mean, it even goes back to when I fished with Scott and, and of course, Eric is, he's a big trout stud. I've never fished with Ben. I'm sure he's really good too.
Ben has shown me some stuff that he won't show people. Dude, that guy has it down.
Yeah. I figured that, even though I don't know him and we've never fished together.
He's so quiet, but he has it down.
But he seems like a great guy. But, in fact, I'm going to just tell you, like, Eric and I'm trying to think if I was even guiding yet. I don't think I was. I think it was a couple of years before I started guiding. And Eric and I bought the same boat, right? Mm-hmm. We were the first ones with Yamahas on those Chittams on the tunnel. And
Eric's has like that modified transom is so much higher.
Mine did too. Yeah, mine did too. So you could run a 20-inch on a tunnel.
Yeah.
And so I called Eric and I'm like, hey, I want to come down and, you and I have the same boat. I want to see what prop you're running and
see what you can really do with it.
Yeah, see what, and I want to fish with you. You and I have never, he and I had never fished together.
Yeah.
And, even though I'd fished everybody else down there and I knew who he was, we weren't friends. I didn't know him. And so he goes, I'd love to. He goes, let's do it. He goes, I'd like to, let's see if we can put our heads together and see what makes the most sense. Because we were the unicorns, And he goes, well, what do you want to do? And I said, it's probably it was like July. And he's like, it's probably too early in the season for tarpon. He goes, we can go look for them early. He goes, you probably don't want to just chase redfish, do you? And I said, if we can get on some snook, or I love to chase big trout. I'm a big trout guy. That's what I like to do, And at any rate, he goes, okay, done. So he picked me up over there at Polaris or whatever, and we took off. And man, I learned something from him. I mean, we went and staked up on the edge of a spoil island after we didn't see any tarpon, and rafts of mullet, right, everywhere. And he staked up like a tarpon fisherman and waited for trout to just appear in the rafts of mullet. You ever done that?
No.
Me either.
I
haven't even been able to replicate it, but I'm always looking for it.
Okay. That reminds me one time, and it wasn't intentional. Okay. So I was fishing with Marcus Montalvo, and it was my first time coming back after a couple of days off the water. And we were on the backside of one of my favorite little areas for kind of big trout. But the way the water was, we weren't on the flat proper. We were just off the edge that kind of comes around, that goes back to the ICW. And we were surrounded in mullet, not literally, but damn near, like a bunch of mullet. And Marcus kind of just mentions, he goes like, is that a trout like under the mullet? And I was like, bullshit, dude, no. And he throws one cast, and at the time I was tying a fly. I called the trout pimp. It's very, very simple. I've re-changed the recipe so many times, but at the time it was just bend back hook, bead chain under the bend, and then Crawford tail, chenille for the body, and then a little like a muddler head just to keep it always up on top.
That should work.
Yep. And just one cast, one strip, fish came out of the mullet and ate it. It wasn't huge. It was 24, but it was like
good trout.
Oh shit! So I don't know. I don't think it's the exact concept, but I've seen it happen before.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Eric and I sat there, and it wasn't 10 minutes. He sees the first one. I make a cast to it and catch it. It's like 23 inches. We sat there for 2 hours, and we caught 5 more trout, all of them over 25 inches, 26, 27, 28. And I hooked a fish that he was pretty sure was a big snook, although I thought it was a big trout, but it came out of the water and I was dicking with something and had my head down. I was messing with my, watching my line, trying to keep my line because he was taking line. And Eric got a better look and he thought it was a, fairly good size. Yeah, well, I don't know, but something.
No, I'm playing.
And at any rate, and then we pulled off of that and we start, heading down one of the flats near the ditch. And at any rate, and then here comes another 28 out there about 70, 80 feet. I make a good cast to her and catch her. So he and I caught, I don't know, 6 or 7 trout, and 5 of them were over 25 inches in one day. And Eric tells me that's still his best day on the boat, And I went and fished with him this year just because he and I like to have fun. So I go down and fish with him, and I think I only caught one 25-inch, only one 25-inch trout, right? But we caught a shit ton of fish. I mean, till you just like almost tired of catching them, And anyway, he's just, I've learned a lot from that guy, right? Yeah. Scott Sparrow is a pretty good big trout guy. And he's
a big waiter for him. He did a little bit of the East Cut stuff and moved into the South stuff too.
Yeah. Eric's such a hard worker, man. I mean, we were on the East Cut at the end of that day when we're casting the big fish on the side, and it's like 3:30 in the afternoon. I've told people this story before. And I looked at Eric and he's just still going. And I'm like, I need a beer and a hamburger. We're out of here, man. He goes, are you sure? I can keep going all day. I can keep going. I'm like, no.
You're not the first person to tell me a similar story like that.
I mean, if you really want to, pattern yourself work ethic wise after a guy like that, and you're good, if you're watching the clock as a guide,
you're doing
I think that's
wrong.
a problem. Yeah,
I totally agree. It's funny, I've only heard of 3 other people staking off for trout, and I've done it a little bit, but it's typically in lower water situations, just because you can see more of the sand spits. That's what Wade Duncan would call it, and Wade, and then recently passed skipper Ray, as well as Tom Kilgore. All basically, and obviously Bud Rowland, all basically talk about staking off for the big trout. And this is, a couple years ago when they were a little bit more active, they'd sit up more and whatever. But it's one of those things, again, people have been staking off for tarpon years before this. And it's like, damn.
The trout don't just sit there.
Yeah, sometimes it seems like they do, but you're 100% right. They don't.
In the skinny water potholes, place like Cullen's and stuff like that, I can see that even in the hole and different, Laguna, different places. But edges, especially edges of, I'm not even going to go into all of that. You and I'll talk about that later. But there are places even down here that I'll do it now, and you wait for them to come to you. And actually, if you can figure out which direction they're coming based on wind, current, and whatever, it makes it a lot easier, really, because they don't know you're there because you're not pushing on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, and it, just kind of makes sense, honestly. I mean, I was doing that with some spin fishing guys the other day from Florida that came down. One of the guys that bought my boat, and they did real well doing that. Just throwing touts at them.
Already just gives me a couple of ideas of little areas that I want to consider doing that in, where I could just angle myself off and just wait.
I really like, and the other thing, Eric got me thinking about, everybody always was thinking, early spring, big trout time, da-da-da-da-da. Eric likes to chase them in July. And I have to tell you that I have come around to his way of thinking the last couple of years.
Really?
Honestly. Yeah. I probably have, I caught the most big trout in my boat this year in April, and I must have seen 15 trout over 25 inches that day. And we caught a 28, a 29, and a 25 out of the boat sight casting to them in one day. Wow. I'll show you the pictures before you get out of here. I mean, some beasts. And probably should have caught a couple more, honestly. But I really was able to get on them this summer. And I actually, it's going to sound crazy, but I kind of like the high wind. I like
Oh, for sure. High wind helps.
I like high wind and low water and sun, so that I can see them. But I was seeing fish from 300 feet away this year, and
I haven't
just
even seen
laying
that.
on the
Yeah,
grass.
that's
I mean, if
awesome.
you're watching and you're in the right spot, you can find them just laying in the grass, and if the water's shallow enough, trout like shallow water, man. Bud taught me that years ago. He's like, I know everybody tells you this, but I'm telling you right now, because they're all the big girls are up skinny, you know, and I think he's right about that. You know?
No,
I mean, I know there's exceptions, right? And they need to have a place to fall off at some point, but you know, I mean, my only problem in those circumstances is a lot of times if my clients aren't up to the task, it's really hard.
Difficult.
Yeah, because it's really it's the Super Bowl of Texas fly fishing.
It really is.
Know?
I totally agree.
I mean, and it's hard. It's hard. Even if I have you as a really good caster on the front, it may not go right. You know,
it's a zero fish day kind of day whenever you trout fish.
Yeah, but it also is very doable. You know, I mean, it's very doable.
Yeah.
I mean, I bet I had days over the last summer that I'll see 5 trout over 30 inches in one day now.
Yeah.
And the trout regs changes.
Huge.
People don't get it. I mean, if they
don't get it now, it's kind of on them because it's obvious how good it is.
If they would make croaker a sport fish,
yeah,
that'd be the last straw. And then our trout fishery would be world class, better than it is even now.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good now.
I'm right there with you. I totally agree. I was one of the biggest proponents when the trout, when that was an issue, like a political issue. Like I remember I even did like what's it called? Like where you get people to go sign a petition. Like I had the leading petition and trying to get people to, or trying to get the state to not reverse the sunset clauses. This was before that they were going to make it permanent.
Right.
And stuff like that. And it's just like, I mean, I told you so, like it's obvious, you see it, the quality of fish has improved. A lot of the bigger fish tend to actually eat now. Like it's just one of those things where, and granted, fishing in the South, especially all of the last couple of weeks for me, been seeing a lot less big trout, but it's like, okay, well now I got to start, moving around because the big ones are actually out there. It's not more like, I don't want to go all the way up, all the way up over there and know that I'm going to see one.
Well, and the other thing is y'all were the lower Laguna was the initiator of all that. I mean, y'all saw the results before we saw it up here.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of blowback. Rousey was instrumental in getting that. And even the other, and it's funny, Joey Farah stepped in, Chad stepped in. There's a lot of guys that, helped build momentum to get that going. But the old school Bubba guides, I mean, Rousey was getting death threats.
Yeah.
And, and the way that they were, I don't want to be critical of anybody making a living, but, going out and catching big trout on croaker and then coming back and and double dipping and taking another trip that day. And some of them even 3 trips. I mean, it's just not good for the fishery.
I totally agree.
I mean, it's just not good.
No, yeah, I'm 100% with you. That was one of the biggest issues for me was just the 2-a-days and literally just that. Like, and I don't think you're, offending anyone too. Like, it's just like being so like destructive of a fishery is just a very low IQ thing. Like, like you're just not thinking 2 steps ahead.
Long term.
Especially for people who keep saying shit like, oh, well, how else was I supposed to make food or put food on the table? Well, it's like, there are people who will pay $1,000 a day to go look at big trout. Like,
yeah.
And I'm not saying to change your whole customer base either, but like you're acting like, or like they were acting like that market wasn't even there, giving me it's the same exact kind of argument for the people who say, oh, I keep everything I catch just because I need to put food on the table. Right. And it's like, well, if that was the case, you wouldn't be spending $750 a day on a fishing trip. You'd spend that,
at the grocery store.
Exactly.
Much more effective.
Yep. Yeah. So that was kind of the thing for me that kind of really.
It's hard. It's just old school. I mean, my dad, his last wife, I mean, she wanted to keep everything she caught all the time, but she was just old school,
Yeah.
And, I think, and to be honest, I mean, when we were young, I mean, we kept a lot of fish.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of hero pictures, whatever. I mean, now if I go out and keep fish, usually I'll keep a couple of drum for Patty and I to eat. I think the drum fishery is still pretty healthy. And,
After this year, with all the work that the Texas Parks and Wildlife put in, dude, we were seeing it by the thousands. It was like, oh my, I mean, it was cool. But after a while, they pushed all the redfish off the sand.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah. Although... I mean, sometimes you can find a lot of big trout where those schools are.
I learned that also this year. It's funny. Tom Kilgore talked about his first big trout being up by the gas well, of all places, up by the gas well where the water met the land. And it's like, damn, those fish really were like doing cool shit. And I just don't do it anymore because of tower boats and stuff. But being able to talk to guys like that and hear stories like that also, as someone on my end of the thing, it's like, well, now I want to see if I can go find that activity somewhere, it doesn't get deleted from the gene pool.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, mentioning the tower boat thing, I mean, that is, man, that's my biggest pet peeve right now. We got guys buying tower boats that have no idea what they are doing. They are just burning every shoreline and every flat. Patty and I were down in the hole earlier this summer, and I'd been down there for several days fishing, and there was a decent amount of fish in there in this one little area. And we're down there fishing, and Patty catches a decent sized redfish, and these guys see her from a distance do it, and they are actually doing donuts around my boat at about 100-yard radius, looking for fish.
Shut the fuck up!
I shit you not. And then they shut down for maybe 45 seconds. And then jump up again.
And it's like, you motherfucker. Yeah, I hate that.
I mean, that is exactly... Well, I videoed it, and that's exactly what was coming out of my mouth. And Rousey's like, send that to me. And I'm like, I ain't sending that to you. I mean, because he wants to send it to Texas Parks and Wildlife.
I agree.
I mean, and I tell you what, and then it wasn't... And then this will get you. So he sends one of those big submarine redfish, mid-30s to us. And Patty catches his ass, too. Like, he's coming. I mean, you couldn't miss him. I mean, you could see him from 1,000 yards away. And anyway, and he sees her catch that fish, and some other jackwagon in a tower boat that was coming our direction. Now I got two of them buzzing me. And of course, they blew all the fish up, and just crazy. And when I was in there at daylight, there was nobody. And when I left, there was 9 tower boats in 9 Mile Hole, all doing the same shit.
Yeah.
And I mean, and there had been fish in there all week. And was there fish in there the next, like I came back like on a Monday or Tuesday with clients? No, there was not shit down there. And what they don't understand is that you can't redfish rodeo these fish on the flats.
You can't redfish rodeo anything anymore.
Yeah,
like there's not, those crazy. Fish don't do the same thing. They already learned the first 30 years that was going on.
They're scared shitless.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you
crazy.
On that one.
It's crazy.
Like, for example, like I've told this story a couple of times. It's just happened like a couple months ago, but like I had started fishing in some like kind of like right off the point of Stover on like in the summer. And this one boat behind me was just zigzagging between kind of like 150 foot from where I was and 150 just foot.
Looking for fish.
Yeah. Just zigzagging back and forth. Right. So I'm like, that's weird. And they kind of, and every time they'd get close to shore, the water would turn brown behind the motor. And you're like, dude, like I don't have to, I shouldn't have to fucking tell you what you're doing wrong. Like, anyway, so like he ends up coming past us, keeps going, and then gets stuck in the middle of culling because it was too shallow. And it's like, all right, serves you right, dude. So like
karma, baby.
Literally. So then I'm driving by, I kind of look at them and they kind of look back at me like they were expecting me to help them or something. And it was like, off. No, what? Anyways, so I keep going and like I fish in the triangle a little bit, like maybe 30 minutes, right? I'm getting out of the triangle and I'm like, all right, I want to just go check game warden here. And then like I want to check the point, and then I want to start moving north. So I start heading over to game warden. And as I turn out kind of away from the Duncan channel, I start going south on the ICW. Well, those guys somehow had gotten up and made it through the pass behind 3 islands, and now they're in front of me. So they start running, and there's boats fishing for flounder down the ICW.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that could not be more obvious.
Right.
Well, this guy decides to try to be a good person and go around them by running up on the shoreline of Green Island and going on the inside. So the ICW is completely open, 6 boats, 3 on each side, all fishing for flounder. This guy goes around them behind the house and just burns every fucking inch of what I wanted to fish.
Yeah.
That's
and crazy.
It's one of those things where you just like, I mean, at that point, you know, I have a 60 Tohatsu. I'm not going faster than 35, but it's like, dude, oh my God, I wish I could. You know, like, what are you doing?
I think that there needs to be, and Rousey and I have talked about this a little bit. Mac Jank and I
like Mac a lot too.
Mac's a good guy, and we whine about it all the time. But Texas is always behind Florida when it comes to understanding and managing the fishery, in my opinion. And, you know, they have done some things over there in their flats where they have no motor zones and egress and ingress type stuff that to me makes sense. Now, they tried it here in 9 Mile Hole and over there at Aransas Bay at one point in time to protect the seagrass. It needs to not be about protecting the seagrass.
It needs to be about just fishing,
it needs to be about not being an asshole and destroying the fishery by just burning it up. I mean, it's like they take that same mentality from the freeway and you put them in a high rack boat. And I don't hold anything against Chris's Marine for building those boats. They're popular, they're expensive, they're making a good living off, but they need to know how to use those boats. And I feel like that if they would post these and then the game wardens are like, oh, we can't enforce it, it's too much work, I'm going to call bullshit on that. I mean, they can spend all kinds of money on CWD that doesn't do any good for us, really and truly. And all they need to do is put guys down there for a 2 or 3 month period of time. And the fine needs to be ridiculous so that it gets people's attention and gets on social media. If they would fine these guys somewhere between $1,000 and $5,000 for doing it, it wouldn't take but 3 or 4 tickets on social media of them crying. And if they can afford a $150,000 boat,
you're damn right they're going to be able to afford that too.
You're damn right they can afford it, but it needs to hurt. It needs to be painful so that these guys will quit running shorelines. They need to make running shorelines like within 100 yards of a shoreline, and that's actually being pretty narrow in my opinion. I mean, but minimum of 100 yards, you know, you just don't run shorelines. You have ways to get in and out of a flat, and that's what you do. You don't just go wherever you want. And then if you would actually punish some people for breaking them, I feel like the word would get out that it would do away with it. You know what I mean? An education campaign, including the guys selling the high rack boats. You know, so that they quit doing it. And then the fishery would get better and they would get smarter. Because I think most of the people that do that are probably not your daily fishermen. They're probably guys that are weekend warriors. Although I have seen an unnamed younger guy that's in his late 20s, early 30s that has one out of Market 37. And that guy burns the spoil islands of Nighthawk on the front or the back almost every evening when he's coming home. And it just burns my ass to see him do it because those were good places to fish. You know?
I mean, I know of, again, one of a pretty well-known, I say well-known in extreme air quotation marks, but well-known. And, you know, I know that he paid burn boats to go and burn other dudes' spots during tournament fishing.
You're shitting me.
And it's like, dude, you tell me, like, this guy even at one point...
He ought to be kicked out of the tournament.
I agree. This guy even at one point called me and was like, you know, drunkenly called me and was like telling me all about how much of a great angler he is and stuff. For half an hour, I listened to this guy and it was just like, wow. Can I have your fucking autograph?
The greatest charter captain ever.
Yeah, basically, actually. And so it was just one of those things where it's like that ego is probably the biggest toxin in Texas fishing, just overall fishing completely. And it's like, when did ego come into play so hard that like grown ass men act like high school girls?
No question, man.
It's frustrating.
No question.
It's so frustrating.
I wish they could figure it out. I mean, Rousey's always on top of stuff like that. And of course, we got the desal thing. They're up and running again, and I just saw a post from him on Facebook that came across my deal. I'm not really on there much. I usually do some stuff on Instagram that goes to Facebook, and I only do it for my outfitting business for hunting and for fishing. I don't ever get on there personally much.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess the Corpus Christi City Council is trying to open back up the desal thing in the port over here, even though it'll be terrible for the bay,
Yeah, I mean, all they have to do is just grow up, and like I'm talking about the people who are causing the desalination. All they have to do is grow up and move the fucking discharge offshore. Like that's all that needs to happen, because desal is a net benefit.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%.
It blows my mind. It's such a simple mistake, or such a simple.
They're greedy. And they are not willing to build the infrastructure. They're trying to make they're trying to get the low hanging fruit.
Yeah. I mean, same with the boats that were leaving all the dredge pipe material up on the spoils, and people were hitting it and stuff. And then they had that one guy that died and started, finding these companies like $1,000. And so they were like, we're still going to leave it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's annoying.
Yeah. I hear you.
Man, I forgot where I was going to go. I had a pretty good point. I forgot where I was going to go with that. It was when you had mentioned a little bit about Rousey. I forgot where I was going to go with it. I'm not too sure. I'm not.
That's my problems. CRS can't remember shit.
Sorry,
when you get to be my age, it happens all the time.
I got too into my rant, and then I just forgot where I was going. Oh man. Well, at least I guess what I will say on the social media thing. Would you say it's a net benefit, net negative?
Man, I don't know the answer to that. That's a really hard one.
It's a personal answer.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if all of it disappeared tomorrow, I couldn't give a shit.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm from the time before all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Heard.
Having said that, is it entertaining? Yeah, it's entertaining. But one thing that drives me a little crazy is you can walk into a room and every sumbitch in there, man and woman, is on their phone.
Yeah.
All the time. And I think having a break from that would be good,
That's why people go fishing.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. It's true, right? We're all guilty of it. Yep. Myself included.
I'm right there with you. Sometimes I find myself looking at my phone too long when I'm changing the song while I'm driving.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife will knock me out if I do that.
Have you spent a lot of time in South Bay or at all, or fly fishing for like the snook and stuff like that?
Some. And I don't. Bud and I fished it quite a bit, and Bud tried to teach me it some. I don't think that is the one place down there that I don't think I know the intricacies of it. And I've fished it quite a bit, but I still don't think that I'm good at it. You know what I mean? I used to catch a lot of sheep's head on the fly down there.
Yep.
It was really good for that. Cooper caught like a 26 or 28 incher down there one time in that back lake that's sort of towards the
SpaceX.
Yeah, it's on the very back. It's like you come in.
You used to be able to find snook on the sand over there.
Yeah, water's got to be high enough to get in there. But and Bud was real big on it. But Bud used to just drift it. He'd drift it, throw gold spoons.
It makes you wonder if those big fish that he caught were also a little bit kind of like getting two pieces of different puzzles with what you'd mentioned about Eric and with this about Bud. Is makes you wonder about those big fish if they really had less lockjaw because they felt less pressure waves.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Like I know Bud even told me one story where he was, what was it? He had someone who was recording him. I don't think it was for a TV show. I think it might have been for like an actual news segment, or it might have been with Richard Moore. I don't remember. But moral of the story is there was someone on the boat with a camera, and they saw like a fish that was 32 swim towards the boat, and the guy was getting all excited. And Bud had the rod in his hand. He goes, "No, we're not gonna throw at this fish. We're gonna wait till it passes." And he goes under the boat, and it keeps going. And it goes about 10, 15 foot, and then he puts a fly over it and just eats it. And it's like, oh, here I am trying to throw at it from the very beginning. And it's like, oh, never mind.
Yeah. It's funny how like experience makes that easier, right?
Dude, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy because usually that going away shot's kind of tough, But I mean, if I'm doing a going away shot on one of those, I usually try to do some sort of little curve cast to drop it in front of them, and then I wait till they get right to it, and I just barely tick it. You know, that's typically how I approach those going away shots if I can.
Interesting. You know, I had Tim O'Brien talk a little bit about how when, like, you know, it was a big hypothetical, but he was like, one of his favorite ways to feed fish is actually when they're facing away.
No shit.
But it's when they're in a pothole facing away. And he talked a little bit about how it's just like whenever you see that fish and she's facing up and she's looking up the grass line, that's typically a fucking money moment where it's like throw, strip, and just fucking let it fall in front of her, and she'll just eat it, move it. It's
because that's what she's waiting for.
Yep, just anything, and it just makes those little things.
It does make sense.
Yeah. I just wish we saw that more often. It's just, you know, for example, I did a podcast again with Tom Kilgore. He talks about seeing sharks on the sand, and I was, you know, thinking that stuff, and it's like I don't want to go shark fishing every day, but wouldn't it be so cool if, you know, you could say, hey, fishing sucks, let's go grab a 10 weight and pull on a shark.
That's a Keys gig, man.
Yeah. I know
we did that quite a bit, and it's a lot of fun, you know. I mean, hooking a 6 or 7 foot lemon, you know, in 2.5 foot of water. I mean, it's kind of a hoot, you know?
Dude. I did the Baracha tournament this year, and it was my first time doing it. I was fishing with Craig Cantelmo from Hardy and Van Stahl and Rick Hartman. And I was the guide, right? We were using my boat, so I had to be the guide. So I didn't really fish much after the pre-fishing day. And on the second day of the tournament, you know, we caught some of our fish already, and we had mentioned a little bit about catching one. So the day before, a man named Davis Walker gave me just had it in his boat. Just gave me a wire material and a yellow and red pike fly, and he was like, I mean, dude, go for it. I was like, sure. And you know how a lot of the time you throw out those things and they don't actually
There's
cooperate.
a lot of sharks in Puerto Rico.
Yep. But a lot of time they don't cooperate that much, right? And so we see this like bigger shark, you know, maybe like 80 pounds coming down the edge, and from the pulling tower, I'm like, y'all mind if I throw at it? And like, no, fuck it, why not? So I walk up, strip all that line out, fish comes in. I think 2 false casts at about 60 foot, 1 strip, fish slams it. And it was just one of those things like, it actually worked out. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was very cool.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, I don't know.
The black tip, or what was it?
It was a black tip.
Yeah.
It was not a lemon. I have a picture of it.
A lot of black tips and bulls in Port O'Connor, man.
There's one guy named Randy Richter, and I told him he's not a Texan, but I want to do a podcast with him because he's one of those guys who his addiction to fly fishing is I want to catch every species. And so, you know, one of the coolest things that he did was he caught like a 350 or a 425 tiger shark on fly.
Wow.
And that was his whole thing. He's like, I want to catch one. And it's, you know, it's a baby tiger shark, right? Technically, but 425 pounds.
I mean,
you know?
that's kind of amazing that he actually was able to land it.
Yeah, I'll show you the whole pictures. It's on his Facebook. He was all stoked about it. He got it obviously not mounted for real, but he got an artist did a rendition of it. And then he had the fly and everything, kind of like the stuff you see at the Bass Pro stuff, like, you know, the on top. Right. But it fucking sick. And so then, funny enough, like years prior, while I was studying for a chemistry exam, like this is, you know, 2021, you know, out of nowhere, like I see him post on Facebook about some fish, whatever. And so then I DM him saying, oh, you know, like I'm a big fan of, you know, catching different species. And we kind of formulated this idea of a dinosaur slam. So it was like an arapaima, an alligator gar, a tarpon, a sturgeon, and then like one more, you know, big fish like that. And just recently he went with Matt Simpson, and at the very end of the day, they hooked the 6.5 footer, landed it. And so then I get a text and he goes, I got my arapaima, I got my sturgeon, I forgot. Oh, I think he needs the sawfish. That's what he needs, and then he'll have the slam. But it's
I wonder if sawfish are hard to catch on the fly. I have no idea.
I honestly don't know either.
I don't even know what they eat, to be honest.
Something they can eat.
I only see them when I'm in the Keys every now and then, you know.
You know, I had a friend who told me all in its own context, but he told me he sight fished a nurse shark on a fly rod, and I wasn't there to see it. You know, I was actually at the Airbnb, like a couple minutes away. And it was like, even now I'm like, bullshit. But, with that being said, we're at the hour and a half mark. Is there any other topic you want to have said or want to bring up?
Man, I don't think
we've
so.
definitely covered a lot.
We covered
dude.
a lot of stuff.
Covered a lot.
I mean, it was cool. I enjoyed getting to meet you, and I, appreciate you even considering me to do this.
Dude,
kind of
I'm
stuff,
glad. I'm glad you wanted to do this. This was sick. I think I had heard your name like a handful of times, and like if like it was on the list of names, and then finally, I forgot who else told me the day before I did the Gordy & Sons art show, and at that point I was like, all right, like, I'm not going to keep ignoring this. Like I'm going to ask. And I'm glad that we finally made it happen. Honestly, after this, I would definitely like to fish together also.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty fucking cool. Sweet,
yeah.
dude.
You can come up here. I'll go down there, whatever.
Either or.
Yeah.
Your boat or mine.
Yeah, let's go chase some big trout. That's what I like to do.
Clearly.
We can go down there and fish Collins in February, or we can come up here and chase them here in the spring or in July, man.
Sounds good to
You
me.
probably can catch some of these fish I have trouble with
I would
folks
hope so.
getting the fly to, The question is what do you do with that big trout when she's sitting in the grass with her tail up doing nothing else?
Well, so just recently, the way I started getting a lot of reactions, and I say a lot, 6 reactions out of the last year. So it's not a lot, but more than 0, was just not really bumping the fly, just a very smooth, medium speed kind of progression over her face. Like it's not like you're stripping it, letting it fall in front of her, just almost like it's just swimming away.
Right.
And the 6 times it's always been the same reaction. Tail goes down, fish comes up like aggressively.
Yeah.
But they do miss a lot because it's a hard angle.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is whether they'll sense it or not. Like most of the time I'm just holding the boat and waiting for her to make her move. You know what I mean? Because sooner or later she's gonna
move. Yeah,
she's gonna move, and then I have them put the fly right on, right in line, usually within a foot of their head, and just a nice, but I mean, it's got to be a good cast. You can't just pile it up on them,
But I think I've literally seen like where the tail's up and you don't see the head. So you don't even know how long this damn fish is. Yeah. And then they do that and it's like, oh man.
I caught a 26 like that in the hole. Number of years back where I just cast where I thought, I just landed it right on top of where I thought her head was and just let it sink.
Yeah, man.
And she smashed it.
So sick. Oh, it gets me excited just thinking about it. I mean, I would have been looking for him today, but I came here instead.
I mean, my thing is like, we're finally getting to where we're seeing, I had one of my customers, and he's a fairly good caster. He's an older guy. And he had 5 shots at like a 10-pound trout this year. And I mean, it was a legitimate 10-pound trout.
We're like,
it was
round.
It was like early May. And she was over by one of the rocks and she was feeding and had no effing clue that we were even there. Hardly ever happens, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and he just got so shook up, he just couldn't get it there, And by the time he did get it there,
she already knew it was up.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 splashes near her, and at any rate, but it's going to happen. We're gonna get a 30 in the boat. I had a 29 this year, but we're gonna,
Honestly, to me, anything over 28 is I would call that the truly world class fish.
I have caught a dozen 28-inch trout on the fly and a bunch under that, and I cannot seem to be on the front of the boat
when there's a 30.
And but I'm hoping someday I'll get that shot.
I've only landed 130 on a fly rod, and that was completely on accident too. Like this is like way before I ever took it semi seriously. Like it was more so like I was like, my friends had invited me to go wade fishing. I was like, fuck it, why not? So I went over there. The day before, I like went over to Bass Pro Shops, and I got like a crafty shrimp fly, like just a very run of the mill fly, nothing special. And then it's funny, that morning when we're driving, because we were leaving out of McAllen and then going over there. When we leave out of McAllen, we're like, we hit the exit to Harlingen, and I start thinking to myself, man, today feels like the day I'm going to catch a big one. And how many times you think that and it doesn't happen, so you don't you don't register that it was like, oh my god,
Right.
But like in that moment I did. And so we start fishing, and we get up, we're about maybe knee deep water, maybe a little bit more, I have a 6 weight. My whole thing is cast far, whatever. And I see like a mullet kind of jump around. I'm like, target practice. Throw and strip. Something eats it. I'm like, try to set the hook, miss it, keep going, strip. And then all of a sudden, like, missed it again and then caught it. Like, just fucking ate it. And I'm like, oh, it's a nice red. So put it on the reels. Thing goes. Start fighting it. And at the 30-foot mark, she won't come in. Like, she's just like, every time I get her to like 20 foot, she like shakes, and then pulls drag and then swims with the momentum. Yeah. And then like after a while, like my friend
You're probably
like,
lucky you weren't horsing her in thinking it was a redfish.
Yeah. and so after a while, my friend is like, dude, you're going to catch this fish or not? And I'm like, she won't come in, man. I start reeling it. And then finally she gets within the 20-foot mark. And I'm like, dude, I think this is a big trout. And he like grabs the fish. We weighed it. And it was 9.5 pounds, 30 inches.
That's a stud.
I'll show you a picture right now, dude. It was like, we let that fish go. And I was like, I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. I'm him. I'm Michael Jordan. Like,
That's awesome, man. That's a good story too, especially because, I mean, you know how it is. I mean, when you know it's a big trout, you're being
different.
careful.
It's just so different.
I tell you what, when Wayne and I caught those fish this April, all those big fish in that one day, we caught them on a 6-weight with a glass rod.
Interesting.
And I was hesitant to be okay with that in the beginning, but I think it was an extreme benefit.
You think the glass rod really makes a difference?
Oh, I think it helped a lot with those big trout. They start shaking their head and get on the surface. And I mean, you know how it is. I mean, a lot of times things go south when that happens.
All that bend right there.
Yep. And especially being a 6 too, and it had we had a very light, I mean, it lays it down light with that 6-weight.
That's what, that's what one of the things I was thinking of. You know who I know throws a glass rod, who I think is a really good fly fisherman for big trout? Seth Winkleman. Does that name sound familiar?
I've heard of him.
On Instagram, he's Swink Fly, SWINKFLY.
He catches a lot of fish.
Dude, I was texting
and some big
day,
trout recently.
Super casual. Here's another 28, and it's like
he's an innovative fly tire too. It seems like. I don't know him, but I just looking at his Instagram stuff. I mean, he seems like he's got it dialed in.
Yeah, I know he's another guy that's kind of in this area. I believe that I would definitely like to go fish with, just because like it's like. Again, there's always something to learn from people, and it's not the spots, but it's like the way they do it, the mindset, the technique, the attitude. I think all that's a big difference. Like, I'll say one last thing before we start to close it out.
Sure.
Like I was spending time with Jared Raskob over in 2019 on the Keys, and we were in somewhere on the backside, and we were doing what was considered like close quarters, or I think they called it close combat fishing. 70 to 100 pound fish, and you get a 30-foot, 50-foot window, and it's not long. It's very quick.
Right.
And he basically, like, I'd missed one fish, and he goes, dude, like, stop caring so much. Like, pretend like you don't give a fuck about these fish and act like you belong. And I was like,
great advice.
I was like, okay, like I'll do it. And I kind of, called back on the way I used to act when I played high level tennis matches and stuff. And I was like, I don't give a fuck. And so like one cast, then it was a 70-pound fish that ate. And it was like, I get it now. It's like, and I don't want to sound woo woo or anything, but like, sometimes when I notice that people really want a fish, or when I find myself where I really want a fish and I get nervous and I'm looking at the fish, it almost feels like I never end up catching that fish, and not by mistake of my own, but genuinely because like I do feel like fish feel the predatory sense of what's going on intensified as you progressively want that fish more.
Well, I think it affects the little things that you normally take for granted.
Yes. See, I told you it was gonna sound woo-woo when I said it.
Yeah.
But like I'm gonna stand on it. Like I do firmly believe that sometimes I feel like the fish can be like same thing. Like whenever the whole thing of you can feel when someone stares at you, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's the same concept. I don't think it's like cement or anything.
It's
but
sixth sense. We see it when I'm bow hunting. I'm a traditional guy, kill a lot of animals with a bow. You get inside a certain distance from them, they don't even have to see you. They know you're there.
Yeah. So that was my woo woo little comment right there.
Cool,
but,
man.
To close it off, I last ask 2 last questions.
Yes.
The first one being, looking back at all the things that you've done, is there anything that you wish you would have done differently?
Good question. This is going to sound kind of morbid, but my old man was work hard all the time guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on his tombstone, we put if he had only had another day, he could got some more work done. If you can believe that. That's on his tombstone. I don't want to be that guy. I mean, I love my dad. He's a badass.
Yeah.
But I wish that I had smelled the roses even more.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing that, I don't know if it was Flip or who said it, but time is the most valuable commodity. I mean, and you don't really start to understand that. I had no clue about that when I was a kid. I say kid, meaning anything like less than 40 or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, because from my perspective, it's the truth, right? And at any rate, and so you don't realize that. You think you're 10 foot tall, bulletproof, and you're going to live forever, you know? Your own mortality begins to face you as you begin to get older, and you begin to realize that there's maybe not enough time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To do all the things that you really wanted to get accomplished because you've been working your ass off doing whatever it is that you do, you know?
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I would say. And, you know, I don't have any other regrets other than just,
Interesting.
You know,
it's funny. I feel like I had a little bit of an existential crisis when I was like 15, like, you know, existential dread when like could happen to a lot of teens and stuff. Right. But like I had it pretty gnarly. And I think it was because of realizing that fact early on that I kind of was like, well, fuck it. Like, I'm going to do what I want to do. Like, I'm going to like, you know, I'm not going to depend on this podcast forever, but I want to have done this. So I'm going to do it. I want to do a book. So I did the fucking book, you know.
Great book, by the way.
Thank you. But it was one of those things where it was like exactly what you're going off of. And I think also more people understood that, then there would also be a lot less ego in the whole whole fly fishing or just regular fishing space. But, you know, all in its own 2 cents. It's just, you know, my own little anecdotal story on that one.
Sure.
The last question I like to ask is almost like as if you're talking to your 2 sons from a couple years ago, think like 14, 16, and they tell you, I want to pursue a career or a life in the outdoors. What is a piece of advice that you would give them?
That's a tough question, man.
Not supposed to be easy. So that's the last one.
That's a tough question. If you're going to pursue a life in the outdoors,
it doesn't have to be a career, but kind of the way you did as well.
So I would encourage that with them. I mean, I would tell them that I feel like that kids and even adults that spend time in the outdoors, I think they're more grounded. They get to see how nature works. People are not any different than Mother Nature. I mean, a little more complicated, but it's all basically still all the same stuff going on.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, I would encourage them to do that. I think also if you're going to be in the outdoors, you know, and this is true of anything, you know, live with integrity. Integrity and hard work, man. That's that, you know, whether, you know, I don't care if you're a hunting guide, a fishing guide, a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Regardless, don't let money become the only thing that drives you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't buy a big trout to eat.
That's right.
A fly.
Well, that's one thing that's wrong with the hunting industry and the trophy hunting industry. And now it's who has
like high ranch fences, or
who has the biggest wallet. You know?
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
I mean, that's kind of what pushed people to stop hunting so much and go back to fishing in the winter. I mean, 2 decades ago, fishing in the winter was like fishing in the 90s, you know?
Yeah. I don't do a lot
80s.
of travel hunting as a result of that anymore. I still do. I say that. I went to Spain last year and killed an ibex with my longbow, but the reality of it is that when you start looking at all that really big money stuff, it's just, I don't know. My dad said something to me when he quit doing it, and he was like, you know, it's not about who's the best hunter anymore. It's about who has the biggest wallet, you know? And I mean, that's just not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah. It takes away a little bit of the prestige that it would take to do it. I get
exactly.
it.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's not always the skill set, you know?
Heard. Okay. Well,
anyway.
1 hour, 47 minutes. I mean, we have covered a lot. We've
killed it.
Yeah. No, you did fucking fantastic, dude.
Appreciate
with that being said,
it was easy.
Yeah, I'm glad. I like it when they go easy, okay? With that being said, man, I think we've said everything we need to say. All we have left to do is just get on out of here.
All right, man.
Cool.
I appreciate the opportunity.